Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video features this gorgeous stamp set from Picket Fence. This is the Wild Peonies. I love a big floral image. That's not a big shock to anybody. And so I decided that I was actually going to do two different cards with it. The layout's a little bit more complicated and one's super simple, and so we'll talk about ways that you can make both of those work for you. I did the more complicated one on film. That's the one we're watching now, just because the super simple one is pretty self-explanatory. So here I'm using a T-square ruler and I'm giving myself, I'm making myself a little square guideline. I had already eyeballed the stamp to see about how far I needed to go in, because I enjoy when a stamp has a solid kind of foundation, but kind of hangs out and makes the background a little bit more interesting. So you can see my square is a little bit smaller than my stamp, and the intention is for the stamp to kind of hang outside the square. We're going to color the square in to give it that, like I said, that foundation that I was talking about, and then we're going to add in a couple of little things to make the background more interesting. I did this as a one layer card just because that is my personal preference, but you could certainly stamp it, cut it out, whether that's fussy cutting or I'm sure there's matching dies. I didn't purchase the dies, but I'm sure there's matching dies. There's matching dies with everything now. And then, use like a square of cardstock or a square that you've colored with Distress ink. But I just do a one layer. It makes it nice and simple for me. So once I have the lines down for the pencil and my stamping done, I'm going to go in with a Copic safe pen. The reason that it has to be Copic safe is because I am coloring in my background, and then I'm going to draw the box in around the stamp. So you don't want to do the black portion before you stamp, because then the lines will be through your stamped image. But you do want to make sure you're not drawing through them, and sometimes it can get a little tricky. So now I have my box in place to make it a little bit more interesting, and this way you don't have to be as precise. I'm going to do a second layer, so like a double frame, and when I do the double frame, I let them cross. So it's not a perfect square. They have like crossed edges. You'll see what I mean right here when we're doing this one. But then that way it doesn't have to be an exact science. So if your line is a little bit taller or a little bit shorter, it doesn't matter, because you have those crosses there which act as a design element, but then also as a way to cover up any boo-boos that maybe where your line was a little bit too long. So once that is done, we're going to get into the coloring of the background. I knew I wanted it to be a dark green. G29 is the darkest green that I own, but I wanted the leaves, because I knew I was going to do them like a bright yellow green. I really wanted the leaves to pop, so I wanted to do the background darker. So I'm outlining my image in black, which may sound a bit drastic, but stay with me. Hang with me. So here I'm going to outline everything with my black Copic marker. And then I noticed very quickly when I went to go back in and fill it with my green that they weren't blending as well as I wanted. Now, I could 110% keep going over it with the green until I lightened up the black enough that it blended. But there's a chance that it would bleed because I had saturated the paper so much. So in order to make this work for me, I'm going to get a go-between color. And my go-between color is going to be a gray, because grays will pretty much take on any color that you put on top of them, at least to tint them, which is why you can shade with grays and then go over top of it kind of like a glazing technique and still end up with the color that you want. So I put the gray on top of the black and then a little bit on the inside, and then I went back in and filled it in with my green, and that way the gray green portion acts as a third color that I didn't have before, so that it blends a little bit better. On this particular piece, the parts are so small, it's hard to tell, but for sure you'll be able to tell when we do the, like when you see the card that's the bigger portion of it. So here I'm just going back in and kind of cleaning up my edges with a colorless blender, just to make sure that they're, kind of crisp in how I want them to look. Sometimes coloring's a little bit messy. It's easy to get out of the lines. Nobody's perfect. I'm certainly not, and I get out of the lines on almost every single one of my cards. So here is the portion that I was showing you where it's much easier to see that how using that go-between gray is a much easier way to blend it. Here's all my bright green, yellow greens for my leaves that I'm kind of wanting to pop off that background. And then basically from here on out, until we do the sentiments, we're pretty much just going to be coloring, just like we usually do. So as far as story time goes today, I am actually going to be this evening, if you're watching on Friday, September 3rd, I am going to be on a crafty game show. So I really honestly didn't even know that it existed until Mary reached out to me, and she had said that some of her followers had requested me as a participant on the show. It's called Crafting Roulette, which is a super fun name. And so if you are not doing anything this evening around 7:20 Eastern time, I will put the link below on this video for you to click on and head over. It will be live. So no pre-recorded story time. You're just going to get me live. And Mary, of course. So I'm super excited about that. I am a little bit nervous. I haven't really done anything like this, but I do enjoy a challenge. And so basically the premise of the show is you kind of spin the crafty, it's roulette. You spin the crafty wheel and you kind of get what you get. And there's 4 different like categories that you can end up with, like colors or techniques or textures, or so you really don't know. You don't know what you're going to get, which could be problematic, I suppose, but I'm going to try to do my best to make something of it. Back to the card for a minute. So here I have chosen some pinks for my peonies. I chose pinks because on the color wheel, the complementary color to yellow green is pink. So this is super simple, no nonsense way to make sure that your card pops and that your colors kind of pop off your page, because you have a lot of good contrast. But there are a million colors that would look super good with this. I love a blue. I think blue would look amazing. Your oranges and yellows would probably look great. Purple, because it's so close to pink on the color wheel, also gives a lot of good contrast with a yellow green. So, and then obviously red is green's complementary color, so that would look amazing as well. I really have I have such a hard time making red and green cards because it just screams Christmas to me. And I know that that is not true and accurate. Like, you can do red and green and not have a Christmas card, but for me, my brain just can't unpair them. And so I went with pink, and that's totally fine for me anyway, because I love the pinks. If you watch my channel, you know that you get a lot of pinks anyway. So that is how I chose the colors for this particular card. And then I showed one of the buds. I'm going to show this larger peony here because it is the biggest one and it is the most complex. I don't color any differently than I color anything else. I start with my lightest color, work out to my darkest back into my lightest. That way I'm preserving that highlight, but they'll all be colored the same way, just like the other background that you saw that's already colored was colored in the same manner as well. I just didn't do it on screen because it's all the same image. Wait, oh Lord, I'm kicking things here. Sorry. uh, so crafting roulette. So I am nervous but excited, because when you're doing something live, just like anything can happen. And I don't know what the parameters are going to be for the card that I have to make. And real talk, I'm probably going to have to clean up my desk before I do the filming, and that is just overwhelming in and of itself because it's such a disaster area. Pretty much with this pregnancy, we are now 31 weeks today. I am so tired. I am so tired all of the time. And my doctor did tell me when they did my glucose test that my iron was low. So I have been taking an iron supplement. But apparently she thinks that it's not enough, and that's the reason that I'm so tired. I think I'm just almost 8 months pregnant, and I'm just exhausted all the time. Plus, the combination of working weird schedules and switching my schedule for when Peanut is, my off days, and switching my schedule to match his schedule. So not a night shift schedule, but a day shift schedule. And I think it's just kind of a lot. And so I'm really super sleepy all the time. But I have been crafting more. I just have not been editing more. Sometimes I do my editing while I'm at work, like my actual job, regular job. But lately we've just been busier. I've had busier channels. And so that really hasn't been an option for me. But I do have a couple that are done and completed and just need to be edited. So hang tight for those in the future. But yeah, so I'm excited for this evening. The technology portion of it for me is a little bit like overwhelming, which definitely means I'm getting older, because like I need to have two devices, and I need to have headphones that are paired, and I need to, like, I'm still using Movie Maker as my video editor, and that has been phased out of Windows. I'm a PC, not a Mac, for probably like 5 years now. And because I still have it on this particular laptop, like, that's the one I just go back and use. I know I'm not the only one. People are creatures of habit, and we don't like new things. We don't like change. And so I'm trying with the technology portion of it. And she has IT, who is super helpful, but I'm hoping Eric will help me pair these headphones tonight when he gets home, because I honestly have no idea how to pair the headphones to my laptop and to my phone. I don't even know how you pair an item to two things at once. So I need my super fancy, technologically advanced husband to help me. So yeah, but other than that, we're moving right along. Several of you have asked if we have a baby registry. We do have a baby registry, and while I appreciate you wanting to purchase us something and send us a little something, please know that it's completely not necessary at all. Like, we are very blessed to be in a position where we have friends and family who are throwing us a little sprinkle, and then obviously we're in a place, thank God, that we can afford to pick up those items. So thank you for the thought and the offer. We do genuinely appreciate that. But yeah, I just don't think there's enough on the registry to like go around, you know what I mean? Like, there were just not enough things. I think with your first child, you register for all of these things because you have no idea what you need and what you don't need. Because this is not my first baby, I am aware that there were things that got purchased for me or things that I wanted to have that I just did not even use. Now every baby is different. I'm sure there could be some items that I end up like, hey, oh, that really would have been helpful. But I can't imagine it will be too crazy. So yeah, so now the coloring is finished, and again, just going back in and cleaning up those edges. They weren't, the ink wasn't picking up as well as I would have liked. Um, and then I did go out of lines on some of the leaves, so I'm cleaning that up as well. Here are the two cards. So one of them, I just stamped the flowers and then I colored them whole. That's the super simple one. I am going to, for the sentiment, I'm going to pop it up on this white square. But if you wanted to get more than one card out of the background, you totally could. You would just have to use like a square die, or if you're trusty with your paper trimmer, you could cut a square out of the background, and then that would give you two pieces to use. So you would have a total of 3 cards instead of 1. Here, I am just going to use my white square to cover up the background. But like I said, if I chose to use a square die, I could pop that up out of the middle, and then I would have the background, the negative to use, and then I would have the positive of the square to use. So I would actually split that one background into 2 cards. Or you could cut it at 2 different heights and use those. So like cut it in half, and maybe, I don't know, what is it? It's 5.5. So maybe cut it at like 3.5 so that you would have like offset sizes, and you could use those as 2 different cards. So here what I'm doing, which looks like lunacy, is I'm going to stamp my sentiment directly onto my card. I used to a lot, and I still do sometimes, but it's been a minute because I haven't really been doing scene cards lately. Stamp my sentiment, and then I would use a white gel pen to outline my sentiment to set it apart from the background, and then that way I could keep it one layer. That was my intention here, and I tried it. And this is like, no, when I tell you nobody's perfect, and neither am I, and like just try the things, and if they don't work, then try to find a way to fix them, and it'll only make you a better crafter. So here, this is me doing, like, trying it, the attempt to outline all of that, and you'll be able to see it just a little bit. I keep the actual sentiment, like I've pulled out the stamp set because I need to see, like, for guidelines. This particular stamp set is beautiful, but it's very scripty, and so I was having a hard time following the lines with it. It was just, the background was too busy for what I was trying to do in combination with a busy sentiment. And so I gave it a go. I didn't like the way that it was coming out. I was having a hard time seeing where the lines were. And then so I just decided to nix it and move on to another option, which for me was just heat embossing the same sentiment on black cardstock. So that is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to, like I said, I did not purchase the dies, so I'm going to stamp it, I'm going to heat emboss it, and then I am going to fussy cut it. So that way that will work for me. I'm just trying to get it positioned on a way that I feel like is not going to waste the most cardstock. Like, I'm trying to salvage my black cardstock because I do so many sentiments where I white heat emboss on black. I really should probably get another trick, but I just like the way that it looks. So I'm gonna treat it with my embossing bag, and then I'm gonna stamp in Versamark ink and do the white embossing powder. Now the one I have in my tub is Simon Says Stamp embossing powder, and lately it's been giving me a hard time, and I don't know if it's because it's so old, like I just don't use enough of it, but it's kind of just been giving me some troubles. Now it could be because I have left the lid open and other, dust and things have gotten in there, but so for this one I'm switching over. This is one of the newer ones I just bought. This is Wow Opaque Bright White embossing powder, and so I'm going to try that, and that's why you see me not using my typical like plastic container. I'm using the piece of paper there isn't anything special about the white embossing powder per se. It's just a different kind, and so I don't want to mix it with the other one that is already in there. This one I did get fairly good coverage with. I still run into the problem where like the anti-static is not sufficient. So I'm thinking that I need a new embossing like anti-static tool. So that's the next thing on my game plan, to go ahead and try to find something else that maybe will help me. Here's me just fussy cutting out the image of the sentiment so that I can apply it to my card. You know, and I'm just leaving a little bit of a black outline. This is something I don't traditionally do. And again, like I said, if I had purchased the dies, I would have used those instead. But I did not. I did not. And so I'm just going to pop this up on foam over the one that I had already attempted to do. That way it just completely covers it, and it's no issue. Nobody would ever know that that was underneath it. So the foam tape is also going to qualify for that white square that we cut out, where I'm just going to pop it up off the page. I just didn't show that because, again, I'm already showing it here. So yeah, so I hope that you guys will join me tonight so that I have a little bit of a support system for live crafting, since I have no idea what I'm going to be getting myself into. But it does sound like it will be very fun, and I am up for some fun. I know we have that Eric is home tonight with Peanut, so I'm going to be taking a little bit of time from them. But I was telling Peanut about it, and he was like, well, can I watch? Is this the thing you're going to be on? Like, so we'll see how long the boys stick it out for, because crafting's not really their thing. Here I'm just using some, I think it's the obsidian rhinestones. And these are from Honeybee Stamps, just to kind of accent my sentiments and fill in a little bit of that space. So I picked those out, glued them down, and then I added a little bit of shimmer to the actual blooms of the flowers with a clear, I think this is Wink of Stella, but I use the Nouveau one interchangeably. I like them both quite a bit. And then that's it. That is our 2 cards for today. So I hope that you learned a little bit of something. I hope that you were inspired to make something by them. And like I said, I will leave that link for the craft show in the YouTube channel below. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.